My name is Derek Melber, and I want to thank all of you for taking a little bit of time out of your day to come to this ManageEngine webinar. And today I think we have a very, very good topic. I've been talking about this topic around the world, and I think that every Active Directory administrator needs the information that we're going to cover today. So I'm very excited about this opportunity. So I have a, okay, perfect. So let's go ahead and quickly introduce the topic. I'll tell you a little bit about myself. We only have an hour, so I do want to jump right into the information. So for those of you that aren't familiar with myself, my name is Derek Melber, and I am the technical evangelist for the AD Solutions team here at ManageEngine. And today's topic is really something that I find most administrators want, and unfortunately most administrators can't achieve, which is monitoring Active Directory changes. And this idea of monitoring Active Directory changes has really been a problem with the Microsoft tools. And what we're going to do today is I'm going to show you exactly how to set up monitoring. We're going to dive into the Microsoft tools, try to get some information out of Active Directory using those tools, and then I'm going to quickly show you a very, very efficient solution on how to do this. A little bit about myself. As I said, I am the technical evangelist here at the AD Solutions team. Right here is my email address, so if you could jot that down. If you have any questions about the topic at hand, about group policy, about security of Active Directory, I would be more than happy to address those questions with you through email. And please send me any emails, whether it be today, tomorrow, next week, next month. One of the things that I stress highly about myself is really to try to help administrators around the world better understand Active Directory and better solve problems that they're having with Active Directory. I will point you to some resources on the ManageEngine.com website. There is an Active Directory blog. This blog is a way for me to communicate with everyone around the world on a weekly basis about something. I try to pick problems that most administrators have, and we try to solve those quickly in less than 5 minutes through a blog, and it could be a small video as well. But I try to take up less than 5 minutes of your time with each of those blogs. So they're very small, but hopefully very impactful. Another very important thing is off of the ManageEngine.com website. If you click on the Active Directory product link, you will see around the middle of the screen a security baseline link. This security baseline website, it's a mini site, is really a powerful bit of information that every single Active Directory administrator needs, and I feel that we all have negated making sure that we have security baselines for Active Directory as well as our Windows servers. So this is a way that hopefully I can communicate information to you and get you information that's very difficult to find anywhere else on the web. As you see towards the bottom, I do have a Twitter account and some other resources. My latest and greatest book is the Group Policy Resource Kit, which you see here on the page. This was written back around 2007. There is no later group policy book from Microsoft, so this is their latest book. The book does have great information, especially about group policy preferences in it. So if you're really struggling with group policy, how to deploy them, how to efficiently troubleshoot them, and what is up with group policy preferences, the book is an excellent desktop reference. So that gives you a little bit of information about me, and let's go ahead and jump into the material. So today, what we are going to focus on is this idea of change monitoring. And of course, we're going to focus on Active Directory. Now, this idea of change monitoring, I believe most administrators understand the concept, but we're going to give a definition, my definition, here in a minute. But in order to get the change monitoring established, we're going to have to set up auditing. Now, I know that Microsoft hasn't done the best job naming technologies, and certainly this is one of those areas. But in order to track Active Directory changes in a log, we set up what's called auditing. And auditing, as we'll see, is set up in group policy. And then they have a secondary option for auditing called advanced auditing. And auditing and advanced auditing really give you a way to track every single change that occurs in Active Directory. Now, once we have everything configured properly, the results of this auditing show up in the security log in your event viewer. So the setup of change monitoring of Active Directory changes is actually all built into the operating system. But the problem becomes, how do we tackle common events that administrators want to track? And how do we get reports on those common things? So we're going to look at some common things that I think every administrator wants to track, and then we're going to try to do that inside of the Microsoft tools, and we're going to find that many of the needs come up short. So then we're going to quickly look at Audit Plus for ManageEngine, which is a very easy, simple, but powerful solution in tracking your Active Directory changes, as well as getting reports and alerting. So when it comes to change monitoring of Active Directory, what does that mean? Well, what that means is that I want to track any change that occurs to all the objects in Active Directory. Now, of course, we're familiar with users and groups, but we want to also track changes to computers. We want to track changes to organizational units, to group policy, the details in group policy, such as the password policy. So even though Active Directory is something that we typically deal with users and groups on a daily basis, there are certainly other aspects of Active Directory that, if changed, will cause consequences. And it's these consequences that I'm trying to track so that we can take action on those changes in Active Directory sooner rather than later. So yes, this idea of change monitoring can help with auditors, but I want to stress that change monitoring of Active Directory helps administrators. And it's the administrators that I really want to help, whether it be trying to troubleshoot faster, making sure that your security baselines are in place, or generating reports for auditors and security professionals. Now, once we get these changes in place, the details matter as well. So I just don't want to track all the changes. I want the details of the changes to also be tracked. So what does that mean? That means I want to know who made the change. I need to know when the change was made, preferably which domain controller, and then I need the full details about what the old value was and what the new value is. If I can get this level of information tracked for my Active Directory changes, if you really think about how the behavior of Active Directory changes occur, and you were able to get reports or even alerts on these changes, imagine how different your administrative process would be. So for example, today, let's say one of your colleagues goes into Active Directory and resets the password for a service account. That service account is used on 5 different servers, and they go to 4 of the 5 different servers and they update the password there, but they forget the 5th one. If you are made aware through an alert that the password changes in Active Directory, you could ensure that all 5 of those servers are updated instead of only 4. But if you aren't made aware that the password is even changed, the problem becomes that you don't have insight into what's going on into Active Directory. Without the insight that's going on to Active Directory, you are typically only going to find out about this change when something bad happens, which is that 5th server actually has a problem with the service. So think about it in terms of you are getting real-time information about the critical parts of your Active Directory and the changes that are occurring and the full details around them. A radical concept, but something I think all of us really need when it comes to Active Directory. Now, in order to get all of this set up, we're going to go into auditing. Now, auditing is part of group policy, and we're going to go into group policy, and we're going to enable auditing. And if we if we think about how group policy works and what we're talking about today, since we're only talking about Active Directory changes, we could create a group policy object, link it to the domain controller's OU, and only affect the domain controllers. And that's all we really need to do with Active Directory changes. But I will mention a little bit early in this webinar that AD Audit does more than just Active Directory changes. I know that many of you work for banks, financial institutions, and you have requirements to track certain files related to the bank. These files and the folders that the files are contained in often need to be tracked to make sure that they're not modified or copied. AD Audit Plus can track that for you. Also, there are critical files, system information on servers that you can also track using AD Audit. So let's go ahead and jump into the interface here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up Group Policy Management here. So within Group Policy Management, you'll notice that I do have a domain controller's OU, like everyone does, but I have linked my group policy object to configure auditing at the top because I want to actually monitor more than just Active Directory changes. But the reality is that these details in here will be very similar. Now, when I edit the group policy and go to Policies, and then Windows Settings, and then my security settings, we have this area called Local Policies. Now, under Local Policies is our audit policy. Now, within our audit policy, you will see that I have quite a bit of information configured here. Now, we actually have a document, and if you email me, I can send you the document that gives you step-by-step instructions on exactly what you need to configure here inside the audit policy, depending on what you want to track. Now, obviously, if you just want to track Active Directory, it's going to be less settings than what you see here. But the idea is that we want to ensure that we're tracking everything. Now, each of these audit policy settings has a variety of different configurations. We have success, failure, or we could do success and failure. I usually do success and failure because I'm not only concerned about what changes and is successful in the change, but I want to know if someone tried to make a change and they failed. So that's why I do the failures as well. In addition to changes in Active Directory, one of the things that you can look at through AD Audit Plus are logons. Now, of course, logons can be successful or they can be failures, and we want to know the failures because we may be being attacked through someone trying to do a brute force logon or something like that. So I think that both success and failure are important. So what we do inside of the policy is we establish direct auditing for success and failure. Again, email me and I can send you the document. And once we get that set up, we have one portion of our configuration in place. Now, as a summary here, and again, I can send you the slides. If you email me, I can send you the slide deck. We want to make sure that we go in and we set up the correct auditing. We want to make sure we do success and failure. But again, this is half. And if I were to go to my domain controllers and apply these settings to my domain controllers, then go into Active Directory and make changes within Active Directory, and then go to my event viewer, I wouldn't see much. Because there's one more piece of configuration that is essential to tracking Active Directory changes. And this one piece is what I really feel most administrators miss when they're trying to track Active Directory changes. And that piece is configuring your SACL. Now, SACL stands for your Security Access Control List. And this is actually configured at the object itself. So in order to configure this, you're going to go back into Active Directory through Active Directory Users and Computers. You're going to go to your domain node. You're going to go to the properties of your domain node, Security, which is where we configure the ACL, Advanced, Auditing. I know we're deep here. but this is where we configure this access. So notice I am tracking computers, groups, OUs, users, group policy for everyone, and this is that secondary setting. Now, once I establish both the policy through group policy and I establish the auditing here through the SACL, I'm going to have information show up in my event viewer. So if I head over to my event viewer and I go to my security log, you will see that in my security log I have 138,000 events of things that are being tracked. This is what we're looking for. This is the information that we need, and this is what is happening to track our Active Directory changes. Now, before we move on and talk more about the event viewer, Microsoft does have another technology. That other technology is called advanced auditing. Now, I don't want to go into too much detail about advanced auditing, but what I want to do is point you to some resources. First and foremost, I want you to, if possible today, download this Security Compliance Manager, SCM. Security Compliance Manager is a fantastic tool giving administrators information about security settings and group policy. I think this is a fantastic tool. It's absolutely free. You get it from Microsoft. And the reason Microsoft produced Security Compliance Manager is to help administrators, security administrators, and auditors get more information out of Active Directory. And when they went and asked what additional information we need, basically administrators said that the normal auditing wasn't detailed enough because it was a click and it included everything under that umbrella. And what really auditors needed was precise auditing on only what was important. So what they did is they came up with this idea of advanced auditing, and they actually implemented it in group policy, and you see that here, as well as through SCM. Now, again, you don't have to use SCM as a configuration tool, but certainly I think every administrator needs to use SCM as a resource. Now, inside of advanced auditing, we have more options for configuration. So again, inside of this document that I can email to you are all the details of what you need to configure. So for AD changes, you can see that there's quite a few areas that we need to go and we need to configure to make sure that we're getting all the details tracked inside of the event viewer. So at this point, what we have is either auditing for your legacy domain controllers, which will be your Server 2008 domain controllers and before. You have advanced auditing for your Server 2008 R2 domain controllers and beyond. And we have the SACL configured in Active Directory. Once all of that is in place, you have the security log in the event viewer filling up with the changes. So let's do this. I'm going to go, and you can see here that this is my last entry. And if I go to Active Directory, and all I'm going to do here is I am going to modify the membership of a group. So I'm going to add a user, and then I am going to remove that user. Then I'm going to go back to my event viewer, refresh, and you will see that I have those changes in place. So this is what is being tracked because we have those things set up inside of both the group policy and also we have it set up through the SACL. Now, if we start looking at the security log are stored in this event viewer where we can see them, but the changes are stored in the security log on the domain controller where the event occurred. Now think about that. I know that most of you have many more than 2 domain controllers. Some of you might have 40 or more domain controllers. That means that you will have a security log for every domain controller that you have in your domain. Now, if we think about the one domain controller here, back to this, I have 138,000 events in one log. If I were to have 10 domain controllers, that means that I have 1.4 million events at any one time. So in reality, when we start thinking about these security logs, the problem becomes the volume of information that we're dealing with. And I'm sure that many of you have tried to do this idea of change monitoring, but you look at the volume of information and it's just too much. But what exactly does Microsoft give us so that we can attempt to try to find information inside of these security logs so that we can actually get through the information to find what we're looking for? Well, Microsoft has made some updates, and I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but Microsoft updated the event viewer back in the Windows Server 2008 Windows Vista timeframe. And one of the things that Microsoft added to the event viewer is this idea of custom views. And this idea of custom views allows you, the administrator, to parse logs to only view what you're looking for. So as you see here, I have some logs based on server roles. These are actually created by Microsoft. And then I have some custom views that I have generated. So notice here I have some security events related to different levels of event IDs. But I can even get more precise than these and say, for example, I have events related to LAN manager. So when LAN manager events are recorded, I'm putting those into a special view so I can see that behavior. But I also have things that I want to track related to my environment, such as group changes. And here's that group change that I just dealt with. So for example, if someone else goes into Active Directory and they change a group again, and then possibly they change the group a second time, similar to what we did, and I come back into here into my custom view, that information is going to be tracked. So really what the custom view does is it allows you to have a smaller view of the larger security log. And you can have many of these custom views. Now, the reality is that I have a little lab environment here in my laptop, and I don't have very many group changes. You're going to have many more group changes than what we're dealing with here. But whether I'm dealing with a custom view or whether I'm dealing with the normal security log, Microsoft doesn't give us very good options to parse through the information. For example, they give us this filter option, but the filter option only gives us the ability to go through certain levels. If we know the ID, we can put that in, but it'd really be nice if we could put in keywords. So say, for example, that we wanted to look for the last time the domain admins group changed membership. If we try to type domain admins here, we can't, because this isn't a text box, it's a drop-down box, and you'll notice that domain admins is not one of the options. So this idea of filtering really doesn't get us very far, but we do have this option called find. And if we type in domain admins here and we search, you'll notice that first of all, it's not a very efficient search. It's trying to parse through all this information, and it's very difficult to parse through all the information because it's so much information. Now remember, I have one domain controller in my test domain. You might have 10, 20, 30, even 50 domain controllers. So in order for you to actually parse through all the data, you're going to have to do this find on every single domain controller. Now, notice that this find is not finding anything, and it's really kind of a problem that we can't get the information that we need. So what has Microsoft done for us to help us out here? Well, beyond the custom views and the ability to find, Microsoft has set certain requirements on the security log. Now, this idea about the size of the security log is really going to catapult us into some other areas which I think are going to pose problems with this idea of trying to find information in the security log. Now, if we go back to our event viewer, notice we still haven't found anything, and I go to my security log properties, you'll notice here that I can put in the maximum log size, but it really doesn't give me any information about what that size is. But if I go back to group policy, and in group policy I go to my event log, maximum security log size, you will see that I have this option. Now, of course, we could toy with trying to determine what the maximum size is here, or we could just go to the explain button. Now, in the explain button, you will see that Microsoft says that this setting specifies the maximum size of the security log, which has a theoretical maximum of 4 gig. Now, what's amazing to me about this is this information hasn't really been updated in quite a long time. Even though down here we're noticing it goes through, Server 2003, we have some other issues with this idea of the maximum size. And 4 gig is not very big, but then Microsoft goes on and says practically it's a little lower, which is 300 meg. Now, if we really think about how big 300 meg is, that's not very big at all in today's storage environment. So this idea of the log size being small is going to cause potential problems. Now, consider the fact that if our log is small, that means that we're going to have fewer entries. So we may not even have 138,000 events. Now, at 138,000 events in my environment, I only go back to 9/29, which is yesterday. So yesterday afternoon until this morning is really all the information I have in my log. Now, most of us have our log set up to overwrite events as needed. Well, what does that mean? That means that the first entry, which is this one down here, is going to be deleted out of the log when new entries are inserted. Well, what does that mean? Well, that means we're going to be losing information. So we now have an added problem with our security log in that the size of the log determines how many events we can have in the log, and when the log is full, we start to lose events. So if we were to do a find here, looking for domain admins, but domain admins was changed before 9/29, we're not going to find it. So this poses a huge problem for us as administrators trying to find information. So really the next question becomes, all right, if first of all, if we have a log size that's small, does the event viewer back up the security log when it fills up? Because we know it's going to overwrite events as needed, but will it make a backup of the log when it fills up? Now, I know that many of you are looking at this question and you're thinking, no, the event viewer doesn't back up security logs. But others of you might have heard about this feature inside of Windows, which actually does this. Now, if I go to my security log and I go to Properties, you'll notice that there's an option to archive the log when full. That's pretty amazing. So I'm going to archive the log and I'm going to store it in a log file format. Now, if you want to control this setting a little bit more, you can actually come down here to Administrative Template Settings, Windows Components, Event Log Service, Security, and you can specify the log path, the maximum log size, and that you want to back up the log automatically when it's full. So this is the control over the ability for you to make backups of that log. Now, the question then becomes, well, how many logs am I going to generate? Well, that really has two major factors. One, how many changes that you have occurring in Active Directory on a daily basis. And two, how big your logs file is. Now, let's say, for example, I was in Sydney, Australia a couple of months ago, and I had a person, an administrator in my seminar that was tracking this. And on average, he had 10 logs per domain controller per day. And he had 10 domain controllers. So if we take our 138,000 events times 10 domain controllers at one time, that's 1.4 million events, but 10 logs per domain controller being generated, that's 13.8 million events per day. Now think about that volume. The amount of data that we are tracking here is quite substantial. So if we try to use options like find through 14 million events, it's going to be very difficult. But consider, I don't even have all of those logs that I'm searching. I would have to open 100 log files per day just to search in that day for these events, because these are being logged, these are being archived. So the Microsoft tools really don't provide a solution that is going to allow us to parse through the information. But what if we can consolidate logs? What if we can take the logs from 10 domain controllers in our domain and put them into a single log view? Well, Microsoft has that technology as well, and that's called event log forwarding, and it's established through subscriptions. So inside of Event Viewer, you have these subscriptions. Now, a subscription has two parts. Part one is which computers you want to get information from, and part two is what information do you want. So here you could put in the event IDs for group changes. You could put in all of your domain controllers, and the resulting list would show up here under forwarded events. So this is an opportunity for you to now consolidate the logs across multiple machines into a single view. The problem? Well, we're talking about 14 million events at one time. Even if I parse only through group changes, we still have thousands of events, and the best thing that we have is find. We have no reporting, we have no way of getting all the information that we need, especially not at a granular level down to the domain admins level. So even though we have this event log forwarding, we still don't have a great solution. But what if we could get an email? What if we could have an email sent when the domain admins group changes membership? Well, that would be pretty beneficial. That means I don't have to use the find option. I can just get an email. Well, again, Microsoft, through their newer technology here in the new event viewer, any event can have an associated task to it. And that one of the tasks can be send an email. But again, the problem is this is at the event ID level, not at the group level. So I don't know when your domain admins group changed membership, but yesterday, I'm here in London, yesterday in the class, the last time anyone's changed was over a month ago. So that means that if I have 30 days worth of logs over 10 domain controllers, that means that I have, what, 30,000 logs that I have to deal with? It's too much volume. And I would have to go in and add every single one of those logs over 30 days just to find when domain admins change membership. So as you can see, even though Microsoft's event viewer has been updated, we have some significant issues with the event viewer. The security logs are just too small. The events are hard to decrypt, and they're hard to analyze. Because of the way Microsoft Logs changes, we can't really just look at the information and understand what's going on. We have to analyze the information, which can take time. Because each domain controller has its own logging, we have multiple logs every single day, and even if we auto-archive those logs, now our logs just keep multiplying by the number of DCs that we have. We do have alerting, but the alerting really isn't detailed enough. And the interface doesn't provide reporting at all. If we go back to Event Viewer, nowhere in here do you have the word report. There is no reporting inside of the Event Viewer for the security logs. So we have no way of trying to track down what we're looking for by using the Microsoft technologies. And I truly feel that there are certain common tasks which every single administrator wants to tackle. For example, I, as an admin and Active Directory, want to know when any new user is created. If nothing else, I need to have that information documented. I need to know when any new user is created. I want to know if we're being attacked. I want to know if someone is creating incorrect users. I want to know if the domain password policy changes. This is a very difficult setting to see and to track without some type of change monitoring tool in place. But this is an extremely important configuration in every Active Directory, which is the password policy. I want to know if domain admins group changes membership. In reality, not just domain, I want to know when any group which has privileged access changes membership. Someone is added, someone is deleted. I need to know that. Without this, I do not have a handle on who has privileged access in my environment. But if I can actually get a report, an alert of when a group with privileged access changes, that is extremely powerful information. And I possibly even want to know when a service account is modified. Not just the password changed, but if the account is disabled, if it's removed from a group, any of the settings around service accounts, because service accounts are so important, then it becomes vital for me to track this information. Now, if we try to do any of this inside of the Event Viewer, we're going to find that it's nearly impossible to do this. Because of the volume of events that we're dealing with, it's really too much of a task to track this information. However, we have tools that can help us. Audit Plus. Let me show you quickly how easy it is to use a tool like Audit Plus. So here's Audit Plus, and I have reports. By default, I have approximately 125 reports covering everything from user logons, management of Active Directory, management of individual objects. You see here users, groups, computers, OUs, group policy, other configurations. I can even get down to DNS. So let's say, for example, that you go on holiday for a weekend. You come back and you want to know every change that occurred in Active Directory. You simply go to this report, all AD changes, you go over the last 24, 48 hours, and boom, there's a report of all the changes that occurred in the time frame that you're concerned about. This is powerful information. Let's say earlier I wanted to know user management, recently created users. In the last 30 days, which users have been created? Here they are. This is powerful information. If we have auditors that are asking for information, any report can be exported as a PDF. So now we can generate reports for security administrators, for auditors, to make sure that they have the information that they need. Well, what about domain admins? Well, down here I have a report, modified admin groups. So I can tell you that the last time my domain admins changed was on September 3rd. Now think about this report and what it's doing. Today is September 30th. This was 27 days ago. If I have 10 logs per day, 10 domain controllers over 27 days, that's 10 times 10, which is 100, times 27, which is almost 3,000 logs that I would have to go through to find this one entry. That is powerful. Now, to even get it further, let's say this year. I want to know when domain admins this year, that's my list. So you notice it goes September, August, July, April, March, February. Imagine how many logs you would have to go through to get this information. And I have this information available to me with a couple of clicks. This is powerful. Now, if I just go back to my original report, you will notice that I have more than domain admins in my list. I have finance managers. Well, you may or may not have finance managers. Why do I have finance managers in my list? Well, this is an admin group report. So what I have done is gone to the configuration tab, the group modification area, and I have gone to the default modified admin group report. And I have added finance managers and HR managers to the list by just adding them here. This is so easy to customize default reports. So now what you have the capability of doing is generating custom reports for your environment. This ability to customize reports is one of the most important aspects of AD Audit Plus. Yes, there are 125 approximately default reports, but they are only based on default Active Directory. You have more than that in your environment. So you need to be able to go in and customize these reports. But what about creating a completely custom report? Well, you can do that too. I have a report here related to service account modifications. So notice when I click on my custom report, it tells me over the last 30 days any service account that's changed. Well, you may be thinking, well, that's kind of nice, but I don't know where my service accounts are. Not a problem. I have an action item for you. Here at ManageEngine, we really try to strive to get you solutions for the problems that you have without charging you for all the software. So what we have done is we have these free Active Directory tools. You can download it from our website. And we now have a brand new, this is only a couple of weeks old, service account management aspect. What this allows you to do is to specify all of your servers in your environment and then get the service accounts from those servers. So what this is doing is it's going out to all the machines that we have associated, and I get a listing of all the service accounts that are configured, and if I only want the users, this is my list. So no longer do you as an admin ever have to ask, where is my service account configured? You can use the free tool to get the list. Now once you get this list, you simply take this list back into AD Audit Plus, you go to configuration, and you create a custom user modification report. I've already done that, and I named mine service account modifications. You want to track every change that can occur to a user. You specify by adding in all the service accounts that you got from the free tool, and you're done. Now, if you ever want a listing of service account modifications, you click on the button, and it now gives you a report. But with service accounts, you want more than this, right? You want to know when it changes, and you don't want to have to manually generate a report. That's where alerts come in. Now, watch this in real time. I'm going to go over to Active Directory. I'm going to go to my service accounts, and I'm going to disable an account. Now, this could be disastrous in a real Active Directory environment, because now that account's disabled, and any place that is being used is modified, but I can actually have a real-time alert associated with it. That's right, a real-time alert. This occurred in my dashboard at the time that a change occurred. I can also, in my alert profiles, set up any report to have an alert, and an option is to have an email sent. So I could receive an email anytime any service account is modified in any way, and I can take immediate action on this. This is powerful. This is the true power of the idea of Audit Plus. I now have everything that I need to track any change in Active Directory, get real-time reports, real-time alerts, and I can generate reports over time as well with all the changes that are occurring. This is extremely powerful, what you have the ability to track inside of Audit. I mentioned that there are file auditing, so there's the ability to look at files over time. So if I look at files that were created over time, I can see the different files that were created. I can look at files that were modified. I can look at shares. I also have the ability to go in and look at details. One of the things in this new website that I created is trying to track down very difficult things that are hard to see, such as user right changes. Well, user right changes are part of policy changes. And if I go in and I look at a certain time frame, I can actually get a listing of the changes that have occurred on certain machines over time. This is powerful information. Very difficult to get this information out of those logs and get them in a centralized tool, but I'm doing it here with Audit Plus with ease. Very quick, very easy, very light tool to actually have in your environment. So Audit Plus really allows us to go in and get the information that we need out of the logs that we have. So as you see, Audit Plus, extremely powerful. Audit Plus does things that no other tool that I've seen actually does, and it's something that I truly feel it is powerful for you to get the information you need. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take some questions. We only have a couple of minutes left, and I'm going to say a couple of things here. First of all, if you want to post a question, please do. You can use your little menu on the side. And if I don't get to all the questions, please email me with your question and we'll try to post them. And at any time, please email me whenever possible. So the very first question I have here is, when domain controller numbers are more than 10, how will it be good for getting charts and reports? The number of domain controllers really doesn't matter. What's important is the fact that you just have Audit Plus. So if I go back into this, you'll notice that under domain settings, I have a listing of my domain controllers. So whether this number is 10, 20, 50, it doesn't matter, because it's all going to be consolidated within the reports. And the reports usually tells you which domain controller was affected. I only have one, so you're going to have more than 10 domain controllers listed here. So whether it's 10 or whether it's more than 10 really doesn't matter. What's important is that you have everything configured inside of the tool. All right, so I have another one. I want to get notifications if 5 times a user logs in 1 minute on any server in my domain and the firewall access denied the rule. Well, so you're wanting firewall rules. We actually have a tool dedicated to firewalls. It's called Firewall Analyzer. So if you want to get firewall information, you'll want to get Firewall Analyzer. Remember, what is happening here is that AD Audit is getting information out of the logs on your Windows servers. So if you want firewall information, you're going to have to get a tool that can get firewall logs. And that's why we have a specialized tool specifically for that. So AD Audit Plus isn't going to help you with firewall logs. It's only going to help you with the logs related to Windows servers. Now, with regard to failed logons, what we do have is we have some reports around that. Now, if you come down here and you look at our user management, you will look at locked accounts. You can look at up here user logon failures. So we have logon failure reports due to bad passwords, due to other things. So we have lots of reports around logon failures. So I don't want to give you false information that we don't have reports on logon failures. What we don't have is the ability through AD Audit Plus to pull information from your firewall logs. You will need another ManageEngine tool for that. You'll need the Firewall Analyzer. So again, we do have reports on failed logons. We just don't do it from your firewalls. Another question, do those alert reports wait for the time that is configured for domain controller log picking time or not? So let me make sure, I'll try to answer a couple things that I get from that question. So do the alert reports wait for the time that is configured for domain controller log picking? It's real time. We actually pick events out of the log in real time. So if we go back here, this is nothing more than an alert that would be like for an email. So when I make a change, let's say for example back and I re-enable this account, that change occurs in real time and I have that alert. So my recommendation is to use real time. It's the best configuration that we have for AD Audit Plus. What about licensing? The licensing for AD Audit Plus is based on your domain controllers. So depending on how many domain controllers you have, which is what we're getting the logs from, that's what you would need to have for your licensing. One of the things that I love about ManageEngine is all of our pricing is on the internet. So you can go to the internet and you can look up all of our pricing for all of our products through the entire suite. Another question just came in, which domain credentials are necessary for AD Audit? You need to have the ability to read domain controller logs. The ability to read domain controller logs is domain admin. So inside of your domain settings, you are going to have to specify the credentials of a person that has the ability to read these logs, because that's all the tool is doing. The tool is just reading domain controller logs. Now, if you're using file audit and server audit, you need to expand that. You need to make sure that whoever you specify in the configuration for AD Audit also has access to the logs for your file servers and any other servers that you put into the AD Audit tool. So the next question, it says, this actually is a comment, this is fantastic, real time without agent installation. I want to focus on that. This is not an agent tool. There's no agent. The installation takes less than 10 minutes. The configuration normally takes less than the 10 minutes in the install. You install this on a server, non-domain controller, and then you add in your domain controllers into the list that I just showed you. You put in your credentials, and it immediately starts gathering information. So very easy install, very quick, very light. So I have a question, can we create custom reports in Audit Plus? Yes, I showed you actually 2 of them. Let me show you what those were. So these are my custom reports, the ones that I actually like. I have one for modified admin groups, which this is a default report which I customize to add in finance managers and HR managers. I have a custom report for service account modifications. This is a 100% custom report. I have a custom report for the default administrator account modifications. I also have custom reports. I had someone ask me if we could generate a report for when a new domain controller was created. So I created this report right here, which actually will tell you if a domain controller is created. This is not a default report. This is a customized report that I put in Audit Plus. So Audit Plus allows you to get amazing information that is almost impossible to get without a tool like this. Very, very powerful. So let me just summarize really what we've covered today. We covered the idea of change monitoring. And the idea of change monitoring is very difficult without a tool. The tool that I recommend is Audit Plus for many reasons. One, easy to install, extremely easy to use, extremely easy to customize. You have reporting and you have alerting, real-time alerting. So you now have insight into every change that occurs within Active Directory when the change occurs. We are leveraging the auditing and advanced auditing that Microsoft provides, and we're pulling information from the security logs on all the domain controllers and the servers if you want to do server change monitoring as well. There's no other tool that does this at this price point and this efficient and easy to use. There's no other tool. So that's really why I like the Audit Plus solution versus any other solution. So we're out of time now, but I'm going to leave with this. Please, you have my email address. If you have any questions, please email me. It doesn't have to be about change monitoring, it can be about anything Active Directory or group policy or any security questions. I love to receive questions. Hopefully I can get back to you quickly. I do travel around the world quite a bit. I'm in London right now, I just want to thank you for your time. I want to thank you for your courtesy, and hopefully I will be hearing from you soon, and I hope this information was very valuable to you. With that, I'm going to sign off. Thank you so much, and have a great day. Thank you.